you couldn't have devoted everything to basketball because you're a very bright young man as well. What I mean is, we live in a structured society that requires certain kids to go to school at certain times, and you're bright. You have your grades. Is that important to you too?
Oh, it's very important, because nowadays people, when they think about athletes, don't even think about basketball or ice hockey or football. They don't really concentrate on their grades. And I think now people say, well, if he's a good basketball player, he might not be doing good in school, or he's gonna put the ball in the hoop, but. There's always that but, and I don't want to have any buts. When people mention Kobe Bryant, I always want to say he's a great basketball player, he's a good person, and he does great in class.
Your father, thank goodness, no serious injury. You, no serious injury.
Right.
Of course, there is that unbelievable, knock on whatever is around us, possibility on any of us at any given day that something can happen. Is that why education is so important as well?
Yes. I mean, you have to have something to fall back on. I'm not naive enough to believe I'm going to play NBA basketball, I'm not going to get hurt, I'm Iron Man or whatever. You have to have something to fall back on. You have to stay at an even kill. And therefore I do good in school and I get good grades. I know that I'm a pretty good basketball player. People come up to me and compliment me on my basketball every day. But I wouldn't mind hearing, Kobe, you're a good person. You helped me out through school, or you're doing great in school and things like that. I like to hear that kind of stuff.
What are things that, now that you've had an opportunity to read again, I'm sure you've read it many times, what are the things that jump out at you, that seem real to you, that you do need to think about?
Well, the thing when he said, stay focused, stay real, that's very important to me, because you hear about athletes who, before they reach stardom, you see them and slap files with you, speak to you or whatever. And then when they reach stardom and get money or whatever, they kind of stick their noses up, and say, well, the world owes me something. And that's something I don't want to ever be looked at. I want to stay myself. And when people see me on the street, they can just come up to me, speak to me, Kobe, how you doing? And it's just he helps me stay focused when he writes letters like this, when people write me letters like this.
If you decide to go college, it's got to be LaSalle, right? It has to be. Or am I wrong?
Oh, I hear that every day. Everybody comes up to me and says, well, you have to go to LaSalle because your father's there. And that's not true. My father has raised me to be an individual. My mother's raised me to be an individual. They've always said, Kobe, I want you to make your own decision. My father tells me this every day. He says, Kobe, I don't want you to come to LaSalle because I'm there. I want you to come to LaSalle to play some basketball, get a great education. He doesn't want me to just go to LaSalle and 20 years from now come back and say, hey, Dad, I made a mistake. I should have listened to my gut feeling and went elsewhere. He doesn't want me to do that. He wants me to make my own choice, so I have no regrets in the future.
Honest answer. Would you rather do something spectacular offensively or defensively?
Defensively. No question. Because I can come down, I can do 1,001 dunks, it doesn't matter. But guys coming at you full speed and I'm in there protecting the house, the guy's going up trying to dunk or whatever, and I go up and I just catch the ball and I throw it out of bounds, but block it so I can start a fast break. I love that. It gives me such a big thrill.
You go out to dinner and you're surrounded by a bunch of people, some of which you know, some of which you don't know. Okay? And you're sitting across the table from a person who you know is friends with you. Would you rather have a friend that is not going to tell you have shit in between your teeth? Or would you rather have a friend that is not afraid of having that uncomfortable moment and tell you have shit in your teeth so you don't look like a fool in front of everybody else? He said, well, I'd rather have the person that is going to tell me I have shit in my teeth. I say, well, I'm telling you, you have shit in your teeth. So it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Right? I mean, it's uncomfortable. So like you come into work, it's uncomfortable to have people that you know are going to challenge you and going to push you. No, that's not the way you do it. No, you're being lazy. No, get to work. No, make no excuses. You got to demand more of yourself. It's uncomfortable to have that.
As a dad who has kids now who play, do you find yourself in the role of that parent in the stands who's...
No, man, I'm pretty calm about it because I understand the process of it, right? And I think it's important for parents to understand that too. You don't get super, you get crazy at games, this and the other. No, it's a process. There's this game today, there's going to be another game tomorrow. The tournament this weekend, there's going to be a tournament next weekend. You don't get crazy there too? Yeah. Just enjoy the process. Let your kids get better every single day. Let them work on their craft. Understand that the lessons that they're learning through sport are not just about the sport itself, but are about life, right? And how they develop as people. And as parents, it's very important that we have that in perspective.
At 12, I'm like having a hard time remembering what I was doing at basketball at 12. And I'm like, kids nowadays try to do too much, you know, like from a skill standpoint, they try to have them do all this fancy stuff versus like the basic stuff. And so I teach my kids the most basic stuff. We just do it over and over. But I asked Mike, I said, what were you doing at 12? Do you remember what you were doing at basketball at 12? And he goes, dude, I was playing baseball.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
Let that sink in for a second.
That was his
like
dad's
for people
game.
out there who are like overtraining their kids at 12 and like doing all this fancy stuff, just let that sink in for a second.
That's a good point. Yeah.
When it comes to seeing the way you play basketball and you see kids coming up and you see, you know, little ones coming up to you and they say, you know, I want to be like Kobe Bryant, what is the first thing you tell someone like that?
No. No, don't do it. I just try to tell them, first and foremost, find something that you are passionate about. Find something that you are passionate about. You know, that's, as parents, that's the one thing, you know, there's many others, but, you know, for our children, is you want to put them in positions where they can find something that they're passionate about and that they love to do. So I think it's important for kids to start there. And then from there, you know, once they find something that they're passionate about, they will naturally work hard. They'll naturally be curious about how to improve in those areas. And then from whatever they're doing, be it, I don't know, soccer, because my kids play soccer, you know, through that, they learn a myriad of life lessons, you know, from hard work to leadership to teamwork. And as parents, you're there to support that and kind of guide them along. So, you know, for kids that say that, that's how I would frame it up as.
Do you think one of the edge you had over everybody else was the biggest percentage of your focus was on one thing? Do you see it that way? Like that was my edge over everybody else?
I do. At the time, I didn't really understand that, right? So, you know, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
The world becomes your library to help you improve your craft, better your craft.
Yes, indeed.
So because you know what you want, the world's giving you exactly the information you need to become better at it.
Because you know what you're looking for.
I've seen a lot of players, especially now, you know, in youth basketball dealing with that. You have players that are like bigger and faster and stronger, and, you know, their coaches are just coaching them for results. You know, we're just going to use your size because you're bigger than every other 12-year-old out there to dominate today. But they're not growing, right? So they're just based on that result, but they're not focused on growing this young child into becoming a better athlete. And through that, teaching them how to become a more well-rounded person. And we're missing that. I feel like a lot of parents are missing today because we're not teaching that to our kids. We tend to say like kids don't want to do the work, but in reality, it's when we're failing them because we're not leading them the right way and teaching them, you know, how to fish. You know what I mean? And so like the consistency of work, Monday, get better. Tuesday, get better. Wednesday, get better. Right. And you do that over a period of time, you know, not like 1 month or 2 months. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And then you can get to where you want to go.
Having kids, if I try to tell my daughters you have to work hard and all sorts of stuff, like they just kind of look at me like, yeah, Dad, yeah, we get it. And they just kind of go in one ear, go out the other. So I've had to start trying to figure out how to seed that into stories, into content, into short stories, right? Stories I can read to them at bedtime. And then that's when the messages would sink in because they'd pay attention to a character more so than they would pay attention to what the hell I'm saying, you know? But I trick them because I wrote the story, ha ha ha.
How do you inspire and foster that vision of greatness in a child? You talked a little bit about the stories you tell them. A mentality that's very different than what they see every day in social media and so on.
I try to get my kids to see the beauty in the process. When they got old enough, I used to take them with me to workouts. And they used to be over there kicking a soccer ball around or whatever, but they would see. Right? It's not just sitting there and watching upset, but they would see. You know, they know I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Right? They know I'm training again. You know, and this film, Dear Basketball, I mean, they were there with me as I was writing it and going through the animation process, going through step by step. And I think the important thing that we can do as parents is to lead by example, but also encourage our children to think incrementally. Not to say, okay, I want to be like, Gianna, for example, my daughter who plays basketball now. She said, Dad, can you teach me how to play basketball? I'm like, sure. She's like, okay, I want to be better than you. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's start with 15 minutes a day, right? And for 15 minutes a day, we just stood right in front of the hoop and just shot, right under the hoop. We didn't move around, we didn't do any dribbling, just 15 minutes a day, just shoot here, right? And you do that for a month and a half. And then next month you step back. And the next month you step back again. And then you start working on dribbling, right? And so I think through actionable things is how we teach our children. Right? Because we can sit there and tell them, we're not, we're kidding, we didn't listen, right? But through sports, you can teach them how to think things incrementally because that's the way they behave. And if it becomes a part of their process in sports, it'll become a part of their process in life as well.
I've heard awesome stories about you practicing at crazy hours. What was your practice routine like?
The same stuff I do in the game, the same stuff I do in practice, man.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy, it's nothing flashy. It's footwork, it's pull-up jumpers, it's turnaround jumpers in the post, it's defensive slides, it's watching film. And you just do those things over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's basically it. I mean, I get a kick out of it now, like, because my daughter plays, and so I'm very close to the game, the youth game. And I'm watching all these kids, and people are training these kids, and I just can't help but laugh. Because they're dribbling like 10 basketballs at once, and then they're dribbling 2 basketballs, juggling 3 tennis balls. I'm like, what the hell? What is going on right now? Like, did the rules of the sport change or something? And I wanted to see how my daughter was going to react to one of these videos. I just wanted to see what her natural reaction was going to be. And so we started, and I showed her a girl that was her age, and she was dribbling with 3 basketballs, going da 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 da. So I showed her the video, and she goes. And walks away. That was it. I was like, oh, okay, Mamba mentality.
Mamba
okay.
mentality.
All right, I like it.
Everything's been not choreographed, but it's been practiced so many times that it's second nature.
There's why reinvent it? Like I don't understand that. You go out and play the game, and you're just trying to create something new. No. This is what I do. This is what I do extremely well. You're gonna have to stop me from doing that. And if you do stop me from doing that, I have a counter to that. Done.
There's this quote, by Jordan that says, he took so many shots and he's failed so many times, which is why he succeeds. And there's that famous clip of you, I think you were a rookie, when you took those shots against the Jazz.
So Kobe Bryant, the young rookie, straight from high school. 8 seconds left. Bryant, guard above Russell. 5 seconds left. 4. Bryant drives, pull up. Shot on the way. No good. Carvalho rebounds. We go to overtime. Stands wide right. Van Exel fakes knock away. Cross court left. Open Kobe Bryant for 3. Another air ball. He shoots back to both air balls. Jazz basketball.
That's hard to believe.
Van Exel. Yo-yo. Van Exel backs it out. Straight away to Kobe Bryant. Bryant for 3. It's short again. Air ball. Air ball. The young rookie. 3 times. He shot air balls here at Tracer. Stockton with the ball. So front court. Jazz with him. Stockton all over him. 8 seconds. 7 seconds. Here's a 3-pointer. Air ball again. By Kobe Bryant. Another air ball. 4 seconds left. It's Stockton. It's over. It's over. I do believe. It's over.
Did that moment help to propel you to become the player that you are now? Like, did that help you to develop that Mamba mentality that you have?
In a sense, yeah. But before those air balls, the mentality was already there because, I had the cojones to shoot them.
Yeah.
And not only did I feel like I had the cojones to shoot them, like I felt like I should be the one to shoot them. That was just my logic and reasoning, right? And then I failed miserably.
Shaq was whispering something in your ear. What did Shaq say to you in that moment?
I don't even know.
You don't remember?
No, I wasn't paying attention. He was trying to whisper encouraging things. I was like, I'm fucking fine. Okay, I shot 5 air balls on national TV in front of millions of people that cost us the series, and I'm 18. I'm fine, dude.
How does somebody get there mentally with that public humiliation? To some people hurts them and they don't come back because, there was a player, Barbosa. I don't know if you remember Barbosa.
Yeah,
of course you remember.
Of course.
He was extremely talented for quick first step, but they said he wouldn't do well when the spotlight was on him.
Yeah.
How did you get mentally and emotionally so strong where it doesn't bother you?
Well, you got to look at the reality of the situation. Like for me, it's not, you kind of got to get over yourself. Like, it's not about you, man. Like, oh, okay, you feel embarrassed. You're not that important. Like, get over yourself.
That's where you go.
Get over yourself, right? Like, you're worried about how people may perceive you, and like you're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? Got it. High school, year before, we played 35 games, max, right? Week in between, spaced out, plenty of time to rest. In the NBA, it's back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online. Every shot was online, but every shot was short. Right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it.
Done.
Done.
Tell us about this day, and especially tell us, you go in the locker room after scoring 81 points. What is on your mind, and how do you process that and go on with the rest of your life? Like, what is that about?
Another tough shot. Some of the rookies, of course, at this point hitting the wall through the season as Kobe knocks it down. In fact, his first shooting night in a month. Here's Kobe off sweet move, a little bit in Milwaukee, then down in Houston. He's one of those guys that everybody wants 57 straight. Make it 58. He's up to 58, 59 now. 59. Double just about every night. Kobe is back in and out a moment too soon. Kevin George guns it to him, little back door. Kobe scores on the slam. Knocks down the three with regularity. Kobe trying to answer back for two. Go to the side story. The Lakers are down by 14. That's what, now 61 in a row? Did I do it? Yeah, is it my fault? The scoreboard says 60-49. All of the Lakers have to be going offense. Kobe has been going and he keeps it going with the backhand layup. Bryant again with the Kobe baseline, got it again. Just Yo-Yo on the dribble. Stops at the top of the key. They're giving him the ball to see if he can add to it. Yes, he does. Still 6.5 to play in the third. He pulls up for a three. Yes.
You know, I got to give you the training program first. I train 8 hours a day, every day, throughout the course of the summer. 8 hours. 8 hours. It's 1,000 makes, 1,000 made shots per day. And those 1,000 makes are all moves that you are seeing here. Pull-up jumpers, the fadeaway, the footwork. It's all, 1,000 makes of those repetitions. So I'm missing, on a bad day, I'm missing 60, 70% of those. So the amount of shots and the repetition that I'm getting off that footwork, I can't say that I was genuinely surprised by it.
Question is, of all the players that you either played with or against, what's the one person that you would pick as a teammate?
I really enjoy to be teammates with Jordan because I just feel like practices would be very interesting. It's like you go to practice and it's on. Oh yeah, it's on, and that's really the fun of it is going to practice every day and competing, and it makes you better. When you have teammates that push you and stuff like that, and that would be really, really fun.
How do you define greatness, and how does that guide you through life?
For me, greatness is continuing to improve, continuing to be better. I don't think there's an end point for greatness. I just don't think that exists. I think it's a constant curiosity of trying to figure out ways to be better, ways to improve. And I think greatness is more of a mindset than it is an actual goal that you have reached. So that's how I define it.
All right, let's start with your relationship with Bill Russell. You cold called him.
I did.
Why?
I wanted to learn. I think that the most important thing that we can do when you want to learn is to actually pick up the phone and ask. And so I picked up the phone and I reached out to Bill Russell, and that began a great relationship of mentorship. And he had a lot of great stories to share with me, not just things on the court, but off the court. Especially in that time when he was playing, those two things could not be separated because one went with the other. When I played, I could score the ball. I could handle the ball, and I could pass the ball. But it was really important. In order for us to win, I had to look at my teammates and say, okay, there's other players here that do that better. Therefore, I must allow them to do that. And what I do best is defend and rebound. So I'm going to completely focus on that. Let Kuzi handle the ball. Right? Let Sams be the shooter. Havlicek be the shooter. And I thought that was a very, very insightful thing that I used in how I was able to go on and win those 2 championships post-Shaq.
What drove you to become a mentor to kind of younger players around the NBA?
Well, it's the same thing my mentors did for me coming up, from the age of 18, from Bill Russell,
I remember when I first had the idea of building a studio, I reached out to Oprah and we sat on the phone for an hour and a half just talking, and her giving me incredible words of wisdom about how to go about it. Because of that, it's my responsibility to do that for the next generation that may have questions as well. I mean, that's what we do. We help each other out. I think it drives me crazy when people say, okay, you guys are all in this pot, you guys are all fighting over the same thing, therefore they pit one against the other, whether it's me or Brian and KD. It's like, step and all sorts of stuff going on. And it's nonsensical. And we all need to help each other out. So I think it's part of my responsibility to do that.
And do you find that when you're giving advice or talking to them, like, how much, there are a lot of people often accuse like younger players of not being open to that kind of thing. But from what you've seen of the guys that you've talked to, like how much willingness do you find in them to have that kind of fellowship and mentorship with you?
Well, it's been great. I mean, I've seen a lot of willingness from the players, and to the point where they'll send me video clips and ask me what do I see, and call me about certain matchups or certain defensive packages that may be giving them problems, and they seem to enjoy it. And then some of them come out here during the summer too, and we'll spend some time in the gym, working on things. So
toward the end, after that horrific injury that you suffered, when you weren't playing at the level that you wanted to play at, tell me what that was like.
Oh, it was frustrating, but it was also enjoyable in a weird way, because I was trying to figure out from night to night what could I do and what can't I do, because there are nights where, like, okay, my legs feel great, and then a minute into the game it's like, okay, I have no legs. How is that possible? Like, I don't understand. So I'm just old. All right, well, I got to figure out another way to be efficient or to help. Yeah. And so, like, every night was a different puzzle. And so I found excitement in trying to figure out what tonight's game was going to be physically, and then I just found enjoyment from that perspective, and it helped me get through the year.
I didn't realize how much thought you put in to each player that you opposed.
Oh yeah.
And their tendencies, and that was what was beautiful about that book to me. The snapshot of you creating separation or putting your hand up or making contact with a player. And yet, when I've talked to my sons about basketball, I say, don't think, right? Yeah. Do it all in the training and then don't think. So explain that to me, the thought process as you're playing.
You have to do an immense amount of research and then study that over and over and over and over. So then when you play, those things are organic and they just happen, right? But the only way to trust that is to do enough study and enough research, where then it just seeps to the back of your mind. It's like downloading software, man. Once you download it, it's in there. Yeah. But it's a certain seriousness that I took to winning championships.
I had a chance to play pickup once with Magic Johnson. This was long after his career was over. Even in that silly pickup game, he was so competitive.
Of course.
And I wonder, do you have that still in you when you, like, I don't know if you play pickup ball now, or do you still play at all?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, it's competitiveness, yes, but it's a simple theory or idea to live life by. If you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. No matter what it is. If you're going to do it to the best of your ability, and that's what you saw from Magic that day.
What habits allow you to consistently come through in the clutch, and specifically when it matters most?
Just be calm. Just be calm. Sometimes we tend to overhype situations. Kind of our imagination gets in our own way.
Yeah.
And for me, I was able to detach myself from it, and to allow the work that I put in at practice to manifest itself during the game. Right? So there's no need to panic. Like, I've taken these shots thousands and thousands of times before. Right. Nothing changes. Yeah. I've had games that I've won, games that I've lost at the buzzer. You show up the next morning and you get to practice again anyway. Right? So not getting in your own way.
Yeah. You didn't win 5 NBA titles without building a great team environment. And I think your example alone caused everyone around you to be better, to want to be better. Yet, can you give us an example of how you were able to pull the most out of your teammates when it counted?
Hal hates when I use this example. He hates it.
I think I've heard of it, but I want to hear it.
I'm going to use it anyway, just because I just like ribbing Pal still. But we had played them in the gold medal game in 08 and beat them, right? And but coming into that Olympic season there, we had just lost to the Celtics in the finals. And those guys really beat the hell out of us, especially Pal. Physically, they roughed them up and stuff.
So we come back to training camp, the first day of practice, and I had my gold medal hanging in his locker. And so Pal hardly ever curses. He turns around and goes, "Motherfucker, this is bullshit." Da, 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 da. I said, well, what are you gonna do about it, bro? You lost twice in a row. You don't wanna be a loser all your life, dude. Got beat by the Celtics. We kicked your ass, and now here we are. So at least get one out of those three.
Right. I love that.
At least get one out of those three. You got to make Spain proud one way or the other.
Right, right.
Right. But the biggest thing for him is playing for country.
Yeah.
That means everything to him. And Powell liked direct confrontation. He liked it. You know, he enjoyed being challenged because he knew it would bring the best out of him. Other players, not so much. Lamar didn't like to be challenged directly. Yeah. And he would take it, and he'd be just fine. He'd come out and play. But with him, it was more so talking about X's and O's because he was the guy on our team that would go out and communicate everything to everybody else. He was the guy that brought everybody together, right? So if I needed something from Shannon Brown or Josh Powell, I'd go to Lamar and talk and he would go and relay it.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So everybody had their roles, but they just naturally fell into them according to their personality. And what I had to do, which I learned from being younger, was to just sit back and observe. Sit back and observe and listen and see who naturally has what qualities. Because it's not about one leader, but I think a leader's job is to sit back and allow other leaders to take shape.
Yeah.
And you just simply are there to guide and and funnel things along.
Awesome.
That's it.
Awesome.
And distractions come in different shapes, forms, and things like that. So at your level, you probably have millions of distractions. How do you overcome them? And maybe at the highest time of your career, how do you overcome all those distractions? Or how did you do it?
Isaiah Thomas asked me that question one time after a game in Boston. And the first thing that came to my mind was those Nat Geo shows where you see a lion and he's got his sight set on some poor antelope. And then they zoom in on the lion's expression, right? And the crazy thing about it is that you see all these gnats buzzing around his eyes and landing on his, and I remember watching the show and being like, that has to feel really weird, right? Like I'd be like, right? But the lion didn't do that. His gaze and his focus was completely fixated on what he was going after and what he was there to kill.
Yeah.
Right? So those gnats and that stuff's irrelevant. Yeah, they're buzzing around, but they're not important. So if you find yourself getting distracted by things that are pulling at you on the perimeter, maybe you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you as focused as you should be?
Wow.
Ooh, love
See
it.
what I'm saying? Because if you are, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Just give me your thoughts about money in general and what you think that could maybe help the audience.
I always felt like, you do something right because you love to do it, and you make it the best you can make it, the money will come.
That's exactly true.
Money will come. For us and as feature films or, making the movie Dear Basketball, whatever it is paying attention to every little detail, focusing on the craft, and then the money comes. And now when the money comes, you must be responsible with that as you were responsible with the project that brought the money in the first place. And so the same attention to detail, where you put the money, what do you decide to do with it, how do you decide to create opportunities for others, whatever it is that you decide to do with it, you have to have the same level of focus with taking care of it as you did when it came in.
I love that.
And truth be told, bro, if you sat down as entrepreneurs and you pitched an idea to a person, and the person was like, oh, that's a great idea, I see the vision, you gotta go and rethink your shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you wanna be able to swim in waters nobody else has swam before. Right? You wanna be able to carve your own lane in areas that nobody else saw or knew was possible. So if you do feel that sense of isolation and a little anxiety and fear there, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It means you're doing the right thing. When I asked Glenn Keane to animate Dear Basketball, the first thing he said to me was, he said, Kobe, I don't know if I can do it. I said, awesome. Let's see.
Yeah.
Right? If you know you can do something, where the hell is the fun in that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the excitement in that? It's just the same old mundane thing every single boring day.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You gotta have a little excitement. I don't know if I can do that. Let's find out. Let's see.
Right.
Yeah.
During a timeout, there was a guy next to me, like 2 rows back, took his shirt off and started dancing, right? During a timeout. I don't know if you even remember that, you probably don't, but. So the whole team during the timeout turned around and started laughing, like Ron Artest, Fisher, all these guys were just like sitting, pointing, and laughing. And you were just sitting there during the timeout staring at the court. A, how do you do that? B, how did that, like, your team is laughing, How did that not like affect you to be like, hey guys, like focus on the game? Like, what are you guys doing?
It's complicated. I mean, as a leader, it's not really your responsibility to tell them to focus on the game, right? You know, you allow those things to happen. That's what they're naturally doing. That's fine, as long as they can bring it back to center when they need to come back to center.
Okay.
And as a leader, you don't have that luxury of doing that most times, because you got to keep your eye on the end prize at all times. Right? You don't have the luxury to sit there and goof around most of the time and look at people in the crowd and look at people in the stands. That's not, no. You have to have the sacrifice of staying here and thinking about what's next. Now, there are moments where you enjoy that as a group, right? But it sounds like that time right there was not one of them. You know, we're probably up 20, but you know, probably saw a few red flags that have been concerning down the road, and trying to think of what's the best way to nip those in the bud before playoffs come around. Yeah, standards and non-negotiables. I don't negotiate with myself. You understand? Like when I said, yeah, that's when I told myself, you know, at 13 that I want to be one of the greatest who have ever played. That's the deal I made. I shook hands with myself. That is the deal. That is the contract. That is non-negotiable. I don't wake up 3 years from now and say, you know, this really hurts. I don't want, nope, I don't negotiate with myself in that regard. So that's what I did. When I'm on the track and I'm running, honestly, I did this one time. I was on the track at like, it was 4:30 a.m. down in Orange County running. And so I'm doing I used to do 15 200s at this point in time. And so I'm doing one of these 200s. And in the middle of it, I'm thinking to myself, man, my legs are really tired. They're really hurting. And then I thought to myself, well, what would a quitter do? Would they just stop right now? Like, how does that work? Like, if I just stop right now, what would that feel like? I swear to God, like I'm having these thoughts and I'm like laughing, like my legs are killing me. But now I'm laughing because I'm thinking, like, would a quitter just stop? Like, is that why those fuckers always get second place? Like, no, seriously though, like, so I'm able to find like humor in those situations where my legs were killing me. But that's what I did. I do not negotiate. I'm not going to talk myself out of something that I made a decision to be. I'm not going to do that.
I love that.
Amen. You know, do you attack business the same way as sports? And have you ever had a moment where you're like, I got to chill out because the business world's not like the sports world?
The same, but also different, right? Same in the sense that the attention to detail is there, just like it is in sport, the attention to detail. Right, but it's different because of the intensity that you bring. You know, it's not like a game. It's not like practice, right? You have to have patience. You have to challenge people. You have to hire well and find people that have a certain level of, you know, that demand excellence from themselves, right? And have that attention to detail about themselves. Mm-hmm. And then you wind up building a team of people that have that passion and commitment to excellence. So that's the difference, is that now I'm kind of more in a GM position as opposed to being a player that is on the ground floor bringing out the intensity in each guy every single play. It's a little different.
Have you noticed a moment where you're like, I can't be as intense as I was during sports. I can't demand people to be here till midnight or practice without a ball for 3 hours. Or
yeah, no,
like,
listen, my thing is really simple here, is that, you know, I expect excellent work. We all do. So I don't care if you're here in the office at 6 a.m. and you leave at midnight. If the work that you do is average, then this is not the home for you. Conversely, you cannot be in an office at all and have excellent work. This is the place for you. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care if you're here. You know, there's a lot of guys that get in the gym and work hard, but then they can't transition that to 7:30.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
I can already tell that I wouldn't make it one day in this office. Like I'm really good at looking busy, but not doing anything. So
yeah, no.
There's always this really interesting line to me when you're watching, you know, athletes at their highest level.
Yeah.
A guy who is a clear alpha leader, he runs the team. There's that line of, is he from like his ego is out of control to he just wants the most out of people.
Right.
You know, like Michael Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face. Like, you know, there's stories of you pushing your teammates and you know, maybe getting some of them kind of crumble in the moment.
Yeah.
Did you see that and kind of reflect and say, hey, maybe I need to do this differently?
Well, I think there's a couple answers to that. So, drive a hard bargain. The people that I've always had issues or problems with are the people that don't demand excellence for themselves. I won't tolerate that. Because when the career is said and done, they're not going to be looking at you
a player on his team and saying, you didn't win a championship. No, they want me looking here, right? So it's my responsibility to make sure everybody's holding themselves accountable. I'm holding you accountable. If we just played a back-to-back and we have practice the next day, your ass better be there, tape ready to go, right? Because I'm there and I'm ready, and I just got finished lifting weights for 2 hours, right? So I hold guys to a higher standard, and I don't sugarcoat stuff. Never have, never will, right? And that tends to rub some people the wrong way. Now, teams that we won championships on, me and all of those guys, still close to this day, extremely close, right? Lamar and I still close.
Fisher.
Shannon Brown, D. Fish, all my guys.
Shaq.
We're all Shaq, right? Even Shaq. Powell.
Did you win a championship with Smush Parker? No.
No.
Okay,
He and I
so
don't talk, by the way.
I was going to
So,
say,
yeah,
that answers that question.
That's one of the people that would probably say I was a bad teammate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But most of the other guys, man, that you wind up having this bond. So, you can't have those kind of relationships with guys years after playing with them and be a bad teammate.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
The best leaders are not always the most popular ones. And I think sometimes people have a hard time determining.
They do. And I'll give you a story of the stuff that was frustrating, and the whole selfishness stuff and all that stuff was frustrating. Phil would come to me and say, there was a year there in 2003 where I had 40 points in 9 straight games, right? Shaq was out. It was a toe thing. So Phil comes to me before the stretch, says, Kobe, we need you to take over the offense. I'm like, all right, cool. So that literally,
say no more.
I got it. Fine. I got it. So that literally started the streak of 40 straight games, 40 points in 9 straight games. Shaq comes back from injury, and Phil goes, I still continue to do it, right? And then Phil calls me to his office, goes, hey, we're starting to lose the big fella. So what do you mean? Well, he's not getting the attention. This 40-point streak is starting to kind of take away his fire to prove something, right? So I need you to start dialing it back. I'm like, what? He says, we're going to lose him, and we need him in June. Okay. All right. You have a game against the Clippers. I think I had like 38 or something like that. And I had a chance to score 40 again. It was a blowout game. I dumped the ball in the Shaq instead of shooting a wide open shot. The 40-point streak ended that night.
Wow.
That was it. And that's inside stuff that people don't know.
Right.
And you sent me, you went into
people
Phil's
don't
office
know.
and said, are you happy
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Because Phil was like, hey, we got to dial it back. We're starting to
That's
lose the big fella.
Perfect Kobe, too. He's like, you got to dial it back. You're like, all right, I'll score 38 instead of 40.
Well, I mean, this is the streak thing. It would have been 10 in a row. I would have broke a record.
Right.
I would have broke the record. But instead,
What do you...
You're a Michael Jordan stan, yeah?
Yes.
If a player today took 49 shots in the NBA Finals game and their team lost, what would you say?
Well, I'd say he probably,
Just
that player
think-
sounds like he went 6-0 in NBA Finals.
Just think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
That's what that sounds like.
Just think about it. I'm just saying, revisionist history sometimes.
The revisionist history is actually going the wrong way, though, because I think people are starting to say Michael Jordan played against no one in the NBA.
No,
was
here's the thing, man.
Bums and all this
at the end of the day, what he and I always say, at the end of the day, our goal and our mission, Magic's, Birds, everybody's, is to win championships. That's it. I don't care how you get there. I don't care what you do to get there. I don't care if you got to pick up a team and I don't care what you do. I don't care if you have to yell at it doesn't matter. The goal is to win. Period.
Yeah.